Hello, everybody, and welcome back to JTA Sports. I'm Ethan.
I'm Matthew.
I'm Luca.
And Matt, what are we doing today?
Talking about sports.
Thank you. This is our 23rd episode of Just Talking About Sports. And today we're going to be starting off with our topic about the whole situation with Drew Brees, the former Walter Payton Man of the Year award and New Orleans Saints, basically quarterback and big leader and big man. He donated millions of dollars for Hurricane Katrina, donated $5 million for COVID. He's been a huge help for the city in the state of Louisiana. Has been under fire after what he stated on Twitter recently, when he stated that basically he will never stand or never agree with anyone who kneels or doesn't stand for the flag or the United States of America. And this has caused a bunch of uproar, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement going on. It basically created a lot of controversy, people not liking what he had to say, and it's just kind of stirred the pot of what was already going on. And he's been under a bunch of fire, and he basically did make an apology, and he's been basically improving his relationships back again. But this is going to be a forever stain on his relationship with his players and how they see him and how basically the media and people look towards him. So my question to you guys is, what is your reaction to this whole situation?
You know, I think that Drew Brees never meant to cause an uproar with what he said. And by no means am I defending the statement he made. But I think that the uproar he caused may have been just a little bit extra. He is still allowed to, I guess, in a way, think what he wants, but he has to be careful at the same time. He does not want to show up as a villain to people. He does not want to make a statement that can come back to bite him in the butt like it did. What he said was not appropriate to multiple communities and was somewhat insensitive, but I don't think he deserved like the death threats and all the attacks he was receiving from people. But that is right now the world we live in. You have to be careful with everything you say. And if you don't, it very well could come back to bite you in the butt. And that's what happened here with Drew Brees. I think he'll be okay, though. People know deep down he's a great person and a great human being who's done so much not only for things within his own state, but with people everywhere. Like you said, he has been helping with COVID donations. He helped a ton with Hurricane Katrina when that came. They used the Superdome to house people during Hurricane Katrina. The Saints organization and Drew Brees, they're good people. This was just a bad statement at an especially bad time for Drew Brees.
Yeah, I mean, just the whole situation. Like you said, it was taken out of proportion. I mean, you could understand where Drew Brees is coming from. I know I'm wearing his jersey right here just to show respect to him. That doesn't mean I support 100% what he says. But people got to understand that this statement was taken way out of proportion. I mean, right away, it was like people saw the exact words where he said he doesn't stand for it. The reason why he brought it up was to talk about his grandparents, because they were, and basically other people's grandparents who fought for the wars fought for that flag. And that's where he's coming from. That's why he's angry that there's talks of this. But I basically saying this at this time and this thing is only there to really fuel. He really should not, personally, he really never should put that out, because obviously he knew what he was doing, and he knew what he was getting into by putting that out, because it's basically opinion going against what people are saying. And you're always going to get backlash when you go against something or against what people are basically billions, or probably billions at this point, but a lot of people are going after it. And it's this type of thing that like you got to be careful of doing. But deep down, as you said, I mean, Drew Brees, we all know he's a good man. He's literally done everything, like I said, and he's just huge help. And that's why I think as much as this hate, and I know much hate is being spread around, especially these days with all the stuff that's going on, I think people are going to let him be. I know he came out with an apology, and basically at first, like when he first put out his statement, it's like hundreds of players were coming out on Twitter and going after him too. Like not only just people, it was like his own players and his own teammates. Like Michael Thomas was very angry with what he said, but he came out with his very, very long, like basically apology, and basically they all started to accept his apology, where Michael Thomas basically said that basically having an apology is a form of leadership. And basically he said, as a Christian, you're supposed to accept it and move on. And I think that shows that they deep down they know that this is just a little basically bump in the road or bump in the relationship, but they're still going to be best players. I mean, the two just had like the best like QB wide receiver ratio last year, so I think this is only going to help build their relationship. So despite it being such a negative thing, and I think Drew Brees is going to be able to bounce back.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned the how his grandfathers fought for World War II. I'm definitely going to get to that. Drew Brees' original comments, they were extremely insensitive and ignorant, especially what we are experiencing right now as a nation. Especially this was his first media appearance since the passing of George Floyd on Memorial Day. On that note, I'd like to give my condolences to the Floyd family and the Black community for that. I was really alarmed on how tone deaf Brees actually appeared to be. The comments he got from his teammates, in particular Malcolm Jenkins and Michael Thomas, as well other players around the league, those were very justified. However, there are others on the media whose comments aren't justified under any circumstance. We have gotten to the point in society where everybody thinks they're like Zeus or the judge. Okay, Drew Brees made a mistake. I'm not saying he's right here. He's definitely in the wrong making here, but I'm basically saying he made a mistake. Some of the ways he was portrayed and the animosity he received, it was overkill. Let's not forget the incredible things he's done for the city of New Orleans post Hurricane Katrina and throughout his life. Ethan mentioned that what they did for Hurricane Katrina and what he did for COVID-19. That is a person who Drew Brees is. We know him as that. Now, the distinct part where I believe Drew Brees was tone deaf, we're mentioning those who fought for our country in World War II and disrespecting the flag and all that. Now, does he only think that white people fought in World War II? That's the thing where I understand where people are probably getting a little upset about. So, those that took U.S. history, you'll know this. Established in 1944 was the GI Bill. The GI Bill helped veterans of the war establish hospitals, make low-interest mortgages available, and they granted stipends covering tuition and expenses for veterans attending college or trade schools. Now, that sounds pretty good, right? The bill, however, it did not distinguish the race of the veterans it aided. The educational level completed by the veterans differed for Black and white veterans, even though the bill technically provided the exact same aid to both races. So within this GI Bill, obviously, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but the GI Bill was not administered by the federal government. It was administered by the states. Back then, Jim Crow still existed. The civil rights movement didn't happen for another 20 years. Soldiers of color, when they returned from war, they were not given a hero's welcome. They were given, when they came back, violence and racism. They weren't honored at restaurants. They had to eat outside because of Jim Crow. So that's the thing where people probably got a little upset at Drew Brees, and I completely get that. But Malcolm Jenkins, how he handled the situation with Drew Brees, that is the way that needs to be handled in this situation.
Well said. I agree with that.
All right. So let's move on to the apology. What do you guys think of that?
It was a very, very long apology, but I think it was very, very well written and very, very wholesome. The points that he made were just straightforward. He basically right away said he was in the wrong. He accepted what he basically did. He knew that he basically went against all the, like I said earlier, he was basically did the absolute worst thing he possibly could do at the time and just start more feuds and make things. But he apologized. He said he would help out. He made another donation to the whole Black Lives Matter movement to further proven his proven his point that he really is sad and basically feels bad for what he did. And that's why I think it's great. His players, like I said earlier, Michael Thomas and also Cameron Jordan, he was the one who said the statement he posted with his Twitter. It says an apology is a form of true leadership. And that's taking ownership for his responsibilities that he did. And they're basically saying that he knew he was in the wrong and he's going to just accept his fate and move on from that. And that's why we're all human. We all make mistakes. We're all going to move on in life. This is not just going to be the end of the world. So just having one little like bump in the road, like I said, as my analogy last time. I think they'll be able to move on from this, and I think Drew Brees will just become a better person, even though he's one of the better people in the world. I think he'll just learn from this and become an even better person.
Drew Brees is one of the most educated people I think that I've met in sports world, especially. Drew Brees made a mistake. He admitted it. He said, hey, I made a big mistake here. I shouldn't have said what I said. And I'm very sorry. I was insensitive, and I'm going to move on from this. And we're going to learn from this. Drew Brees is one of those guys where he is open. He is smart. He is genuine. I think people genuinely knew what he was doing. He never meant to harm or hurt anybody. And I think that Drew Brees is going to be okay. He's going to be okay. They're going to move on. I think the biggest issue is going to be with his teammates. Apart from that, I think they're going to move on. The Saints hopefully will not have any issues with this. And it won't be as this never happened, but it'll be a great learning experience, not only for Drew Brees, but the entire organization.
Wow, that is definitely very well said from both of you. I'm just going to add this part. Every word that he said in that Instagram apology, not just the written part, but the video, he meant every word he said. He expressed the sorrow in his eyes, and you can tell he meant everything he said. The next day he had a Zoom conference call with his team. It was reported that he actually was tearing up in that conference call. So you can just tell that he was very sorry what he did. He didn't mean to admit any harm. And this is one part of the apology that I like to point out that really got to me. Quote, I recognize I am part of the solution and can be a leader for the Black community in this movement. As you guys know, people can talk the talk, but people need to walk the walk. As you know, Drew Brees is not ready to just talk about this. He is ready to take action in Unite America. This is what he wants to do. And many fellow league players around the league, they're ready to do that too. So I applaud him for doing that.
And one thing I want to add real quick is that Drew Brees is a big voice for the NFL, but you look at majority of the big voices are the ones that have at least been the stars in recent years, in the recent year here. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, they have personal experiences, and they are big voices for the NFL. I think if you can get those two, they were already released their own separate statements, but if you can combine Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Drew Brees to see that the unity exists there, not only is it going to be an unbelievable standby message for the NFL, but for our entire country.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that for sure. They're definitely the next upcoming stars from this league, and especially like you said, since they grew up having personal experiences, most likely, I think it's definitely wise that they said what they said and to educate others.
Go ahead.
And all that really matters is that I know this is very political, but we all got to recognize that this is still sports at the end of the day. It's still going to be Drew Brees as a quarterback throwing the football, not tweeting out some horrible thing on Twitter again. People are going to learn that it's just, it is what it is. People are going to have their opinions. People are going to have their downfalls. But once everyone's able to, they all have their chances to make it back up again. And that's the joys of the world. That's why there's so many opportunities, especially because we live in America. I know it's such a hard time right now, but we all got to recognize our equality and all the stuff that we have, and like basically opportunities that we have compared to all the other countries around the world. It's just amazing that we don't really take for granted. And I think some of these people are always getting mad on Twitter, but I think at the end of the day, it's just sports, and people are going to basically make up for it. People are going to still bring this situation up later in the days, and this will still be a talk about point. But I don't think this is going to really ruin things, especially on the field. As Drew Brees, this is only going to basically motivate him to go stronger. And who knows, maybe they might win a few more playoff games this year than they usually do. Especially since this might actually be Drew Brees' last year, since he was supposed to retire, and this is rumored to be his last year now, after the Saints got him to come back one more year.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode number 23 of Just Talking About Sports. Thank you all for making it all the way to the end. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.